modern world holds important clues to the story. In fact, structures like this hide a mysterious link to the first life on Earth. $3.8 billion years ago, beneath the surface of our primeval oceans, a revolution is taking place. 6 simple elements, including hydrogen from the Big Bang, and oxygen, carbon, and nitrogen created by stars, have combined to form the key substances that will make up all life, including us. The most spectacular is DNA. Within its spirals hide the secret codes of life. 700,000 years after the planet first formed, life on Earth begins. We stand not on the shoulders of giants, but of tiny organisms, bacteria.
We're very egocentric. We think that we animals run the world, but in fact, we are very late entrants. It was an empire of bacteria long before animals. Animals come along, and we like to think that we wiped out that empire. Well, we would be dead if we wiped out that empire. I have within me an entire zoo of bacteria.
In fact, each one of us has more bacteria living in our bodies than there are people on the planet. For billions of years, microbes like these will have Earth to themselves. Like our infant universe, the first life is small, simple, and full of possibilities. The secret of how it explodes into all the incredible forms we see today, including us, goes back to the beginning of time. As we've seen, all the energy that will ever exist was created in the Big Bang. All creatures need to grab their share of this energy to survive. The more we harness, the more efficiently we use it, the more complex we can become. And almost all of our share of the Big Bang's energy is beamed to us by the sun. 2.5 billion years ago, some very special bacteria figure out how to consume the sun's energy to live. In doing this, they also create the most important waste product in the history of the world: oxygen. Soon, oxygen will remake our world. But first, it has another important job to do. Earth's ancient seas are full of iron particles, and everyone knows what happens when oxygen meets iron.
Here I'm a little bacterium. I've produced this oxygen molecule, and here's a big piece of iron clump. I rust it.
This rusted iron collects on the seafloor. Billions of years later, these huge deposits will be raised up to become major sources of the world's iron and steel.
It was these iron deposits that later on drove the Industrial Revolution.
In this way, the Brooklyn Bridge and the other early landmarks of the Industrial Age are a direct link to some of the first life forms on Earth. Once there's no more iron left in the sea to rust, these ancient bacteria have a mission to complete. They create so much oxygen that it fills the oceans and escapes into the atmosphere.
And from then on, we have a very different planet from all the other planets in the solar system.
Now, life takes a giant leap. For the first time, some bacteria learn to live on oxygen. Every human breath is a ritual, 2.5 billion years old.
Life tends to stick with what works, even over the course of billions of years.
Oxygen is a game changer. By taming its power, life has found a better way to energize itself. 20 times more efficient than anything used on Earth before. What life does with all this new energy will be the story that leads to us. Over the next 2 billion years, life becomes more complex. Skies become blue, and so do the oceans that reflect them. Large, solid continents appear. Earth is beginning to look more like the place we now call home. $550 million years ago, as the planet celebrates its 4 billionth birthday, oxygen levels in the atmosphere have risen from next to nothing to as much as 13%. Take a deep breath, because life on Earth is about to go wild. This is the Cambrian explosion, biology's version of the Big Bang.
Right after you have abundant oxygen, you get size and complexity, and oxygen lets you do that.
It's in this breathtaking span of roughly 30 million years that most of the major animal groups evolve. By 500 million years ago, the first bony fish have evolved in the seas. These fish are our direct ancestors. Though they look nothing like us, they evolved the body parts that will make our own bodies possible, including a spine and a mouth with jaws and teeth.
We owe a great deal to our fish ancestors. In fact, all vertebrates today really represent modifications of the original fish body plan.
For the first 4 billion years of Earth's history, plants and animals have stuck to the seas. But that all begins to change. With oxygen comes an ozone layer, protecting us from dangerous radiation. Plants make the move first. Around 400 million years ago, animals are ready to take the leap. Among the first ashore are the amphibians, whose descendants will include us.
The most amazing thing about animal evolution ever, for me personally, is that moment that first amphibian walks out of the primeval ocean onto land and takes a big gulp of air. Kind of like great-great-great-great-great-great-grandpa coming out of the ocean and seeing this fantastic world. And it's like, hey, I can live here. Look at those trees, look at those bugs, there's food here, I can do this.
Eventually, humans will conquer every imaginable terrain. But before we can do that, our ancestors must first cut their final tie to the water. Mating season. Like modern frogs, they have jelly-like eggs that would dry out on land. But some amphibians eventually solve the problem. They evolve a new form of egg, with a shell that keeps the moisture in. This allows us to carry the ocean with us, onto land, and signals the evolution of amphibians into reptiles.
You could be 300, 400, 500, 1,000 miles away from water and still have the water in that egg in order to birth. That is the key.